A lot of times we throw the terms hip hop and rap around interchangeably. Over the recent years, I feel as though both terms have started separating more again like they were in the beginning. And just to preface, yes, our name is Rapversal, but we aren't limited to just rap. We'll actually cover everything under the umbrella of hip hop and R&B that we can get around to. It's just that, well, we felt Rapversal flew off the tongue a little better than hip hop versal, so yeah. But I thought, what better video to start off the journey other than diving into hip hop and moving on from there into the exploration. So let's get into what hip hop actually is at its fundamental components and move over into what rap represents, and from there go further beyond into the channel. The true origins of hip-hop have always been debated, while some claim it was founded in the Bronx and others claim it was founded somewhere in the South. Even claims that Dolomite was one of the founding fathers of hip-hop from his slick rhymes on stage telling comedy. This is something that can be argued and debated all day probably, but instead, let's discuss what actually makes hip-hop. It's comprised of about 9 elements, with 4 of them being the original and considered essential elements. The 4 main elements are MCing, turntablism, breakdancing, and get ready for the last one, graffiti. That's right, graffiti. Understand that these 4 components were the original 4, so this was during the late 70s to early 80s, where something like graffiti was rising in popularity at that time. The remaining 5 elements that were added on later include culture, historical knowledge of hip-hop, beatboxing, street entrepreneurship, and of course, fashion. So where does rap come into this other than, of course, the actual MC part? Why are these terms used interchangeably? What separates them? Lyricism, bars, rhymes, spitting, MCing, or whatever you want to call it. This is rap, or should I say rapping. Rap has its own subcategory of elements that dictate an artist's identities as well, depending on how they carry themselves with these elements. If someone actually used these elements, they could probably grade every single rapper and make spreadsheets out of them. These elements include rhythm, rhyme, cadence, and tone. A less known fact is that rapping precedes hip-hop itself. Rapping evolved from a griot tradition in West Africa in which appointed people such as oral historians or praise singers is what they called them, would speak about history, gossip, ideology, or many other events, subjects, and occasions. I do want to mention this is not to be confused with spoken word. There are similarities between the two, but not enough to put them in the same bucket. However, in recent years, some artists are using spoken word on their albums by people like Big Rube. I suggest looking him up for some deep thought words and getting some inspiration in. So now that I've guided you through what rap is, there is a little clarity as to why the words could be interchanged. You see, rap and rap music is just the act of the MC being part of the hip-hop element as a whole. But in recent years, there's been a heavier focus on the MC over the rest of the elements. We've seen most of the elements evolve. Breakdancing turned into generations of dances for years, from the robot to the Running Man, all the way to Cupid Shuffle and even Crank That Soulja Boy. Yep, we can't leave any of that outside. It's all part of it too, so yeah. MCing became rapping, of course, that we know now and what we call, and from there many different rap styles and rhythms were birthed. Unfortunately, I feel like streaming services, and this is just my opinion, are killing the spotlight for DJs such as Spotify, Apple Music, and others like that, because now people just make playlists, while back in the day, DJs, they held special mixes that no one else could replicate. And I definitely recommend checking in with your DJs and listening if they are making any mixes, any playlists, because you could be surprised, but that is definitely where the creativity is going. Sorry for that rant, getting back on subject. So, the last element, graffiti. Well, that hasn't really went anywhere either, but since its early beginnings, it has started to get more adopted and associated with gang life. While back then it was a form of expression and people would make murals and art and many other different things, but that has carried on through the 80s and evolved in the 90s as well through music videos and album art that really represents and expresses what that artist wants to go through at that time. Okay, so we've gone through the origins of rap and what rap actually means. So rap itself isn't an actual genre, it's just an element of what hip-hop is as a whole. But I want to take an even deeper dive into this from a philosophical standpoint to really drive home the point and bring up something else that I believe we need to address. So we went over hip-hop and rap and how they differ, basically stating that rap is simply a component inside of hip-hop as a whole, and it's one of the main elements that make up hip-hop. There are subgenres of hip-hop that include the name rap or word rap inside of them, and we'll cover that in future videos, such as cloud rap, rap opera, and rap metal. While these are all subgenres, please understand that as a whole, the correct term that encompasses everything is hip-hop. Maybe one day rap versal, but we'll see what happens. We're not going to hold our breath on that. Well, I hope we gave you a little bit of info on the subject. If you're looking to getting into music and you want to do hip-hop, I definitely study some of the components and elements I spoke about earlier in the video. Learning these elements could help mold you into a unique and talented artist, whether it's producing, learning instruments for a hip-hop band or any band, DJing, or being an MC yourself. Don't stop there. You could even get into fashion or the business side of things. Well, that's all for this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any topics you want to learn about, let us know in the comments below and tell us what you think about the channel. Stay up and stay inspired.